Chapter 30, Day 8, May 7th, 2010, by Justin Rosales. The next morning, I fixed my bed and went downstairs to meet Wim and Marco. I always seemed to wake up later than they did. Perhaps I still wasn't used to the time change, but either way, I never woke up later than 9 a.m., which I guess wasn't too bad. Wim and Marco were eating breakfast and drinking tea when I entered the room. Wim suggested I do my breathing exercises outside in the nice, warm sun. I took him up on his advice. I walked outside and sat on a nearby bench. Performing the breathing exercises felt much more relaxing than they had the first day. After each set of breath holding, I felt more alert and energetic, but also centered and controlled. Since I had implemented the don't force rule, it didn't feel like a chore anymore. It was quick and easy to do with no effort whatsoever. Walking back inside after finishing my exercises, I noticed that Wim and Marco's teacup was empty. "Would you like more tea?" I asked, already reaching for their cups. "Yes, thank you," they both replied. I took their glasses and made more tea while I also made myself cereal. While fixing up breakfast, I came up with an idea. When I got back to the breakfast table with the tea and cereal, I told them my idea. "Hey, so why don't we go back to the river and swim one more time before we go? Along the way, we can stop somewhere where there's a field close by and throw a frisbee around. Then perhaps we can go to the river and have some fun throwing the frisbee at each other while jumping in and catching it into the water." "Great, nice one," Wim exclaimed enthusiastically. "Okay, let's do it," Marco replied while smiling. When I finished up my breakfast, Marco and Wim went upstairs to change. "We'll meet you outside," they said, grabbing the frisbee that was sitting on top of the piano. I finished my bowl of cereal and took it to the kitchen. Running upstairs to change, I saw Wim through my bedroom window throwing the frisbee with Marco. In just a matter of days, I thought, I've been able to come into a new country and build friendships that will last a lifetime. I now have ties with amazing intellectual pioneers. I can't believe that it all started from simply watching a television show featuring the Iceman. Wow. I finished changing, gathered my things, and ran outside to meet my friends. We walked along the dirt road toward the lake one final time. Later that day, Marco would be getting on a bus and moving on to his next adventure. I'm going to miss this, I thought. Eventually, we arrived at a giant field with 2 soccer nets on each end. "Here's a good place," Wim declared. We spread out across the field, throwing the frisbee back and forth. The field was filled with thousands of dandelions. And what kind of insects love dandelions? That's right, bees. So along with the thousands of dandelions, there were hundreds of bees everywhere we stepped. Simply throwing around in the field turned into a game of don't step there or stay there too long or you'll get stung. Quick, throw the frisbee. We had a lot of laughs, and luckily no one was stung. After an hour of throwing, we decided to move on to the river and swim one last time. When we got to our normal swimming spot, I took out my laptop and placed it in a position where the camera would be facing us. When everything was ready, I took the frisbee and stood next to my laptop perpendicular to the spot where we usually jumped in. "On the count of 3, Wim, I want you to run and jump. I'll throw the frisbee to you. Ready?" I asked. "Yeah, go," he yelled back at me. "Haha, okay, 1, 2, 3. Wim sprinted toward the edge at full speed and leapt forward. I threw the frisbee and it just missed his outreached arms. "So close," he said as his head emerged from the water. He threw the frisbee back to me. "I want to try again." As Wim swam back to the edge, Marco dove in. I threw the frisbee to him, but he also narrowly missed it. We couldn't seem to get the timing right. We each took turns throwing the frisbee at each other. And after 15 minutes of throwing and catching, I was the only one to catch it. We probably would have tried for longer if it weren't for the water being so cold. It's not that the cold was affecting us in the way that it was losing heat, but whenever we dove in, the impact from hitting the water would sting our sides and backs. It was extremely painful. After catching the frisbee, I decided to stay in for a bit and swim around. Before leaving Poland, I wanted to feel the afterdrop just one more time. I enjoyed having the ability to just walk down the street and jump into a freezing cold river. I was going to miss that. I stayed in the water for about 15 minutes, and Marco jumped in once more and swam around for a little too. It was relaxing, not having to think about the cold and just enjoy swimming. We had come a long way from our first day of training. It was comforting to know that progress had been made. 5 minutes after getting out of the water, during our walk home, my afterdrop kicked in. I welcomed it this time. Even though it was uncomfortable, I now looked at the afterdrop with gratitude. Like the burn in the muscles that you receive after a long day of working out, the afterdrop let me know that I had pushed my body to its limits and was in the process of recovering. As we approached timeout, we heard a loud horn from behind us. We turned to see it was Conrad in his Jeep. He met us back at the house and told us that his trip to Kartapach was a success. His cousin was going to let us hold the barefoot race in Kartapach. This is great news. I went inside to bathe myself and clean off. In the tub, I reflected on everything that had happened over the last few days. I thought about the cold swims, climbing up Mount Snitska, and sitting in the snow. I'd gained a lot of experience and had significantly improved as far as my Iceman training goes. I also recognized that I had a long way to go if I wanted to catch up to Wim, but I was willing to keep trying. I didn't want to leave my training in Poland. I hoped that this Mount Blanc challenge would force me to continue practicing daily. The first week of August was only a short 3 months away. I finished up my bath and went downstairs to work on the YouTube video some more. Conrad noticed me working on it and asked me to show him my unfinished video. He was amazed. You guys sat in the snow, he asked, with excitement in his voice. That's incredible. Wow, you're my heroes. After watching the video, Conrad began taking pictures of the house. He explained that he wanted to take pictures of time out back to Holland to show his friends. During this time, Marco was upstairs packing his stuff. It was almost time to take him to the bus stop in Loweslaski. When Marco was finished packing, we all met outside in the front yard. Conrad was holding a bottle of alcohol and a lit candle. I want us to try something, he said. I'm going to put hot wax on the cap of this bottle to seal it. I want us all to have our fingerprints to seal the wax. Then, when we have completed the barefoot run in Karpacz, we can come back here and drink this bottle together. We all thought it was a good idea. He poured the hot wax around the lid, and we all took turns pressing our fingers against the wax. It was a nice, sentimental gesture by Conrad. We arrived in Loweslaski 45 minutes before Marco's bus showed up. In the meantime, we threw around the frisbee in the streets. Conrad took more pictures of us to keep his memories. Wim and I also tried a few breakdancing moves in the streets. He did the peacock while spinning in circles, while I did my two-handed peacock and walked forward. It was a nice, relaxing way to end our time together. When Marco's bus arrived, we were sad to say goodbye. We had planned to see him again in the future, so for us at the time it wasn't really a goodbye, just a temporary see you later. We each took turns hugging Marco and wishing him the best of luck on his upcoming adventures. As the door closed and the bus pulled away, we waved goodbye to our new friend. Wim, Conrad, and myself walked back to the Jeep and drove home. When we arrived, we began packing up the Jeep for our return to Amsterdam. Wim and I took a break from packing to record his voice for the YouTube video. With the voice track completed, I only needed another half hour to complete the video. I was ecstatic. When we had finished putting our things into the Jeep, Conrad placed the wax-sealed bottle on top of the cabinet next to the fireplace. As we got in the car, we said our goodbyes to Mishu and Time Out one final time. It was a long drive back to Amsterdam. We left the house just as the sun was setting. We stopped at several gas stations and rest stops along the way. Wim and Conrad took turns driving. I would have driven too, but honestly, I didn't know how to drive stick in a manual vehicle. I didn't mind though. It gave me the opportunity to finish working on the video in the back seat. When it was polished and set up the way I liked it, I closed my laptop and took a nap.